Hey guys, Nicole here with Obscure Reptiles and Caging, and today we're going to be talking about the best way to heat your reptile. So let's get started. Hey guys, so today we're going to be talking about the best way to heat your reptile. There are 3 standards that most people go by, and we're going to go over all of them. The first one would be a heat mat, a dome light or reptile heat fixture, or heat tape. The best way to know what's going to work best for you is what type of reptile do you have. We're going to just do 2 categories. We're going to call them snakes and lizards. We're just going to do a broad statement of snakes versus lizards. So we'll start with snakes. Snakes do really well when you have their heating element down low, like something like heat tape or a heating mat. This is just wrapped up, but this is standard heat tape. Heat tape comes with a plug and a cord. I actually did a whole video on PVC enclosures and completely explain not only how to use this, but how to hook it up, how to set it up. So I'll put that in the description box below if you guys are interested in seeing how it works or have more questions about actual heat tape. Here are some pictures of snake racks, and you can actually see some of the heat tape wound through it. But to use heat tape, you are going to need a reptile thermostat. This is what I like to use. It's by Verum. I have quite a few of them. I've been using them for a very long time, and I highly recommend them. They're not crazy expensive, anywhere from like 90 to 150 bucks depending on the model, and they have done awesome for me. So I highly recommend Verum. But when you use heat tape, you need one of these, or else it's not going to heat. You can't just plug it into the wall and hope that it's going to work. Again, I go in depth about how you use heat tape, how it works with the thermostat. That'll be in the description box below. But you're going to need one of these if you're going to be using heat tape. But on the flip side, the only truly safe way to use a heating mat is, again, to hook it up to a reptile thermostat. These you can plug in and let them heat, but there is no way to control how warm this goes. This specific one I bought as a backup a long time ago just to have something. What I did was I tested it over a whole 2 days. I would periodically check on the temperature, and this thing went all the way down from 70 up to 125 degrees, which is way too hot. And that's only from 2 days worth of use, and it was brand new. It still has the tape on the back. So I can't even imagine how crazy, how much hotter or colder this could get if you're using it over a long period of time by just plugging into a wall. Even if you have one snake, realize that these are not that cheap of animals. Let's say you go to an expo, you get a baby normal for 50 bucks, and you can get a glass tank, you can get one of these for under a few $100s, but that's not going to be the best, most reliable way, and it's not going to be best for the animal. So I really don't recommend one of these, considering they're 20 or 30 bucks and you can't really regulate them that well. But you can do heat tape for even cheaper if you can set it up. This heat tape is completely flexible. You can cut it up into small pieces. You can just cut, let's say, 2 feet of this. It comes in all different widths. This right here is just the 6-inch, but you can get it anywhere from 3, 4.5, 6, 12, 21 inches. And you can cut it anywhere on the clear lines. You can cut all the way through. Like this, for example, is only a couple foot chunk, but you can cut it any way you want and put one of these plugs in it. Or when you buy it from certain companies, they'll put the plug in for just a couple extra dollars. This plugs right into your thermostat. You can control it to any temperature you want, and you're good to go because a probe is actually on it. You can use a dome light for a snake, but here are reasons why you probably don't want to, or I think there are better options like the heat tape. The issue with this is you cannot control the exact temperature other than getting different bulbs. So this right here, this is a 100-watt bulb. Let's say you have a 3x2x1 cage and you have a dome light cutout. When you do that, you have to then check your temperature, what it goes down to. So let's say it gives you a hot spot of 115 degrees, 110. That's too hot already. You're only supposed to be in the low 90s for a ball python. So now this light bulb you bought doesn't work. You're going to have to buy another bulb. Let's say it only heats up to 80. That's too cold. You have to buy a bunch of different bulbs, and then you have to remember throughout the year, if your enclosure is near, let's say, a window, and it's summer and the sunlight's beating down, that enclosure is going to be warmer. Again, if it's summer but it's right by the air conditioner, that cage is going to be colder than it was in winter because it was by the heater and now it's by something that's cold. So you're going to be changing bulbs quite often to be able to adjust what the temperature is in that enclosure. Also, you don't want to run these 24/7 when you have a snake. You're going to want these are only going to run about 12 hours on, 12 hours off. You do not want to use red bulbs. Yes, it might be too cold in your enclosure at night, but you can do things like get heating pads, stuff like that. If you look up what red bulbs do, it can actually mess with the sleep pattern of snakes. So you don't want to use that either. So if for some reason your house gets really cold at night, and this is only on 12 hours a day, that again leads to another issue. If you're dead set on having this, and it's running 12 hours a day, but then it's too cold at night, you're still gonna need one of these to run at night so it's not too cold in the enclosure. So you can just completely get rid of that issue by not having the dome light and just running this 24 hours a day with the thermostat, with the probe, just like it's supposed to, and that way you don't have to worry about the light. Some people like the way you actually can see the animal. Well, it's very easy to install something like this. These are tube lights. These are LEDs, so they do not put off any heat. They're not going to hurt the animal, and you can turn them on when you want or when you want to see the animal. They're actually my boa enclosures. That's why I have them in there, just so I can see the animal. There are also radiant heat panels. I am not an expert in them. These are my first enclosures using them. I've done a lot of research. So far, they're doing really good. But compared to, again, heat tape, I feel like they're really expensive when heat tape would have been a tenth of the price, and it still had to get plugged into a thermostat anyway. But these I got from a friend, so I'm trying them out, and I like them, but I think heat tape still is the best option. Now let's say you have a lizard. You're going to need one of these because things like, let's go with bearded dragons, Ackie monitors, tegus, they go off of 12 hours on, 12 hours off. They need that cool down period at night when they actually sleep. Again, you don't want the enclosure to get too cold, but you are going to need one of these for, again, for any kind of lizard majority. Basically, if you have a lizard that does need to be heated up, you are going to need one of these. Instead of having this actual dome, here are a few pictures. These are my Ackie monitor enclosures, and they actually have a cage around their bulb because they will climb. They're incredibly active. Things like bearded dragons that are not known for being very good climbers, Ackies love to climb. They're super high strong animals, and they get up on there all the time. Bearded dragons are not something you really have to worry about, so they have fixtures like this. In setups like this, you could just have a dome on the inside, dome on the outside. You can do a dome-like cutout, or put a heat fixture on the inside like these. But again, it's going to depend on your species, but you are still going to need to keep an eye on the temperature. Make sure to get yourself one of these. I talk about it in a bunch of my videos. It tells you the temperature of anything that you pointed at. These are very inexpensive. Got it off Amazon for like 18 or 20 bucks. Because when you are using any of these different types of heat throughout the year, depending on how old the fixture is, what time of year it is, if you move that enclosure, if you're in a new house, any little thing can change the temperature of that hotspot, which can also change that whole temperature of inside of your enclosure. So if you have one of these, every couple of weeks, or anytime you clean the cage, or just anytime you think about it, just check their hotspot. It takes you a few seconds. It doesn't hurt anything. You can keep things like this inside of their actual enclosures. I like to do this on their cold side, because if their cold side starts to heat up a little bit, then I know, okay, so maybe something's wrong with the hotspot, or it gives me an idea. If you put this right under their hotspot, they're probably going to knock it over no matter what kind of animal you have. But I generally like to keep this on the cold side of most of my reptiles, and then I check their hotspot as often as I can think or remember it. You don't want your animal too cold, because then it's not digesting, it's not thriving, it's not going to have a good long-term health if it's too cold all the time. Biggest problem is without heat, they're not going to eat because they can't digest. So you want to make sure no matter what reptile you have, it's not too cold, and you don't want it too hot also, because that's not good for that animal. All animals have a range of what their hot spot should be and what their cold spot should be. So make sure that you're maintaining both of those correctly to make sure your animal is doing as good as it can. And one of the biggest issue I have is overheating in my reptile room in summer. My reptile room is upstairs, so it's very warm up here. So here are a few things that I have come up with that actually help overheating. First is our bearded dragon cages. We actually use 40-watt bulbs in summer for heating their cage because it's just so warm. I even have open sides on the top of their cages so more heat can escape and nothing's getting held in there. We do have air conditioner unit and stuff like that, but we just don't want specifically our bearded dragons to overheat, so we use that. And another one is for our Ackie monitors over here. We have a thermostat that will actually kick on to cool things down. Instead of when it needs to heat up, it basically does the opposite. And this is hooked up to incubator fans that are fully adjustable. When it gets too warm inside their enclosures, the fan will actually kick on and push some of that heat out of the cage. Even though they've got a bunch of vent holes, this just helps blow out some of that extra heat. Those are things that I've come up with. If you guys have any better ideas, or you've done things that work really good to help lower the temperature of a cage, please let me know. That's it for this video. Again, if you guys have any questions, you want to let me know anything, put them in the comments below. I do new videos every single Wednesday, and I'll see you next Wednesday.